information is what is limited, and whole industries can be built upon your ability to know how certain things are going to hit certain people. And this was before we called things promotion and marketing. You know what I mean? That's Hollywood is not really there to entertain you. Like, that's great that that happens, but propaganda is something that is important to all civilizations.
Well, propaganda in Hollywood movies is built into the ingredients list. It's like, if you want flour, you need wheat. You're going to have to get the wheat. And if you want to be able to make movies about certain subjects, you have to be willing to work with some people. That, it would be nice if you made it so that this is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is showing the negative side of this other society, and this is our hero. Our hero is going to go do America's bidding and go over there, and you're like, okay. And those movies are successful, and so they continue this relationship, and you become a bit of a propaganda arm for the government, and in turn they don't fuck with you.
Right. But that's what makes information so powerful is, you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about, does following the ritual work? And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. So, like, when I was like, these guys are wearing dresses, and everybody's like, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, it's not. It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is. So 20 years ago, I knew that transgenders was going to be a thing. It wasn't because I was a prophet. It's just I had gotten so much information that I understood that things are secular. So I understood that the earliest I had seen that word transgender was Baphomet, the transgender. And so I knew that in the ritual of Baphomet, the transgender, to show allegiance to him, you had to kiss his ass ring.
Really?
And it said both of those things. So I knew that both of those things would become popular in the future. And that somehow calling people the goat would be normalized over the sheep being always the most popular reference.
God damn, we got some good weed, Cat. Jesus Christ.
This must be the weed.
I'm trying to figure out how to jump in on that.
Right. Which is my only goal.
I always wonder whether or not all the stories in the Bible, it's just where we are experiencing it. Like the mark of the beast thing that we were talking about earlier. If that is not, I think if you had to tell a story for so many years, before anybody ever even figured out how to write it down, and you're telling a story about a civilization that allowed people to put brain implants in them, and then all of a sudden the brain implants were hijacked by machines, and people became just meat zombies controlled by corporations. That would be the mark of the beast. That would be a demonic thing. If a demon tricked human beings into wearing a hat that turned you into a zombie, that demon would be like a famous character in books and folklore. But that demon exists, and it's just technology. It just shows itself through this desire for the newest, latest, greatest innovations that are going to constantly fuel it becoming more and more powerful. Until one day it tricks you into letting it into its head, like a vampire. Like the vampire stories, you had to let them in, remember? That was the thing. You had to invite them in. And if you invited them in, you're fucked. But if you didn't invite them in, for some reason, they weren't allowed to kill you. It's almost like
Here's
the
the
story.
thing, that you have to be able to benefit from the zombie. Like, there's no benefit in that taken out of context. Like, if you're making them zombies so that they can mine for you, then there's a story of that over there. That's the whole thing, is when you look at these ancient writings, they're not saying like, so he was from another world, and we had to bring him our kids, and he would eat them in front of us. And, like, they're not telling those stories. They're saying like agriculture and
Knowledge,
literature and
cosmology.
right.
Explain the origin of life. Yeah.
Like,
show the double helix DNA.
To a fault.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying anything outside of mathematic parameters.
Well, the wildest stuff is when you look at some of those old Sumerian tablets and you see how they had the solar system mapped out. They had the sun in the center, looked just like a sun with little marks around it. It had Venus where it should be, Jupiter where it should be, Uranus where it should be. They were all in the right spots. It's crazy. Like
the Ethiopian tribe had the same. That's what I'm saying. Like, no,
crazy.
It's not. Yeah, but there is no craziness. Everything lines up. The same grids.
Look at that. That is just nuts, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the conventional explanation for that is, because that Zechariah Sitchin guy who said all this stuff, he was often criticized. That people said that he took things too far, that his analysis went too far, and he just went into speculation. But god damn, a lot of the stuff that he was saying, like, you could see the implication in the actual tablets themselves. They show these gigantic beings with these little tiny people like sitting on their laps, and the people have tails. Have you seen those? It looks like genetic engineering.
Maybe it's a tail, maybe it's piping. What
Jesus. Right, it could be piping.
You understand what I'm What I'm saying is nobody's telling these outlandish.
Right. Or they're all kind of all saying the same thing. There's some higher power that comes and gives you structure, tells you what to do and how to live. And every society information.
That's what they give you.
They give you information. Yeah.
Every story, every civilization, every time.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. And that's what we're all thirsty for. Right? You know? And
we're thirsty to monetize.
That's too. But also humans individually are thirsty for information. For, things that make you think. There's so much information that people are just constantly consuming. There's bullshit information like TikTok and nonsense that just passes you by. But there's still...
but none of that stuff is nonsense.
Well, it's not all nonsense. What it is
it's just another offshoot
to get your attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is what all of this is about.
Mm-hmm.
From the Roman Colosseums to... it doesn't matter...
Yeah, the Roman
King Arthur's court time, like
that's the first viral videos, right?
Right. Like
they would tell viral stories.
Yeah, this is all about this experience of being a human being in this amount of time.
Yeah,
and interaction between other people who have done this thing you're doing.
Yeah, and in the middle of you doing it, you realize you only have a certain amount of time. And you're like, God damn it, I'm just starting to figure this game out.
Right, so understand I was probably like 5 years old when I had that moment. So I lucked out because it happened to me so early. But it wasn't about I got that part. So I thought at like that age, I was thinking, okay, so I don't know how long I'm people live. 100's a good number, but there's been people that 600, it seems. I don't know, seems like this. But I'm just going to space it out 7 years at a time. So every 7 years, that's going to be a life, so I don't waste anything. So I couldn't wait till I got 7 because that was going to be the start of my first life.
Why'd you bring in the 7s? Just randomly?
I don't know what randomly means. It's a seldom seen thing in the universe. Randomly.
So just 7 seemed like a good number? Was it instinctual or was it
to people around the globe?
7? Yeah,
That's a great.
It's a lucky number. That's why I asked.
Yeah, well, I'm saying not for no reason. I'm saying if you like math, I'm saying it's a great number. That's how you know that the pyramids are about something because of what they represent mathematically.
Mm-hmm.
That level of mathematical information is another step in civilization.
Yeah, the idea that was just by accident, like when they
trigonometry is not by accident.
Also, that they figured out like there's some measurement. I don't want to bore anybody with the details because I'll butcher it too. But it's the measurements of the height and width and the mass of the pyramid in comparison to the circumference of Earth. It's like they knew so much about like where constellations would be at certain times of the year, like in the summer solstice. It's just wild shit, man.
Right,
but that all in stone.
But not that wild though, because we know that if you were traveling, that buoys are out there, and they're out there for certain reasons, and we understand satellite positioning, and no, it makes perfect sense.
Imagine that's what the pyramids were. That was their ultimate buoy. That was home base.
Well, I'm saying it's not different than how we would treat a planet that we had not been to before.
No, not at all. Not different at all. I mean,
we would locate where's the best place to land, where is the most hospitable of this place, and we would put something there.
And let's imagine that we landed somewhere and we found this lush, green, vibrant planet, and we found those hobbit people, and those are the most advanced people. Those Homo floresiensis, is that what it is? Floresiensis. So this creature, this 3-foot tall human, imagine if we found them. I guarantee you someone would want to introduce them to tools, introduce them to how to make fire, introduce them to figure out language, try to transfer their language to our language, try to teach them our stuff, try to genetically engineer them and turn them into something different. If we have the tools that we have now, like CRISPR, and we found some primitive apes, and there was like a massive population of Australopithecus on a planet, and we said, look, they're on the way.
Right.
Let's just give them a little boost. Just give them a little boost.
Right.
And that's what
but not too much.
Not too much.
And that's what you see with all of the UFO stories is they keep popping up in these times when we as a civilization are getting ready to F it up in real time.
In real time. Yeah. That's like my comedy club. That's why I named
the mothership.
Rooms. I named the rooms Fat Man and Little Boy.
Oh.
Because the UFOs started coming after the big bombs. That's when they really started like ramping up their presence. Like if you look at all the reports, the flying saucer reports, they're all like 1947, 1950, 1952.
If you cross-engineer our shit, it's going to show up on our radar at some point. Like this information is...
Especially when we're using that information very recklessly. Wild.
Even in the Bible story, the Tower of Babel, right?
Yeah.
This story is that, with everybody speaking the same language, it intends hazardous.
I think they're very close to being able to translate language instantaneously in real time, because they can do it right now with Samsung phones. The new, they have the new Galaxy S24.
Animals are doing it worldwide.
Oh, for sure. They have some sort of a language. They have some sort of a communication. There's something going on with animals that's nonverbal.
And with all of our, and with all of us.
You know Tom Green? You know Tom Green, right?
Yes.
Tom Green was here, and he has a mule, and he said that you have like a connection with that animal where you know you want to go left, and you start like looking left, and that thing starts going left. He goes, it's really crazy. It's spooky. He goes, you develop it. It takes time. They have to earn your respect. But once you develop this like loving relationship with this animal, you're tuned into it like an avatar creature. Just like when they would lock on to their dragons. He's like, dude, it's like that.
I have that with women and with ducks and geese and Canadian geese and goats. Like I have, but understand, again, that's part of some religion's story, is that one of the gifts was the relationship between humans and the animal world. And it's something that all civilizations have been able to use, and it's stayed true, you know?
Yeah. It's amazing the relationship humans have with animals.
Yeah, whether it's the horse. No, there's no especially. Like, all of them, we abuse some of them. And
well, just horses don't interact with people the same way a dog does. That's all I'm saying. It's like the interaction you have with dogs is almost like psychic. Like the dogs are like your little friends, you know. They know when you're in a bad mood. They know when you hurt your foot, you know. They when they're happy to see you every fucking time, bar none.
I have that relationship with everybody. That's all animals and like special needs people. It's the innocence and the purity that you get. It's not always good. This is but it's so
we can learn from them.
No, we have learned.
Yeah, we should know it, but we're scared. People are scared of other people being shitty, and we put up like shields, and we worry about.
Well, it's been proven
that's real
historically that Cain and Abel is a real story. That like, you know what I mean? Like people are so violent these days, and that's true. But people have been violent. Like there was this point where humankind learned that they could take a life, and it changed things. You know,
well, especially take a life quickly with like when they figured out swords and bows and arrows and shit. What do you think the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is about? Because I was just reading that last night. Cleanliness? Yeah. That's what took them out? That, like, plague?
Okay.
Because
this is 69 times I've gotten canceled in this one conversation.
No, the stories of Sodom and Gomorrah, there's two speculations. Right. One of them was that God decided that they weren't hospitable enough. And the other one was God had decided that there was too much sin.
Wait a minute, that's not speculation. That's in the book.
Right.
That first one.
Right, but the respectability part, that they were not hospitable enough.
Yeah, that was a part of it.
That's part of it too. So God had just decided this. I'm gonna fuck up this whole city.
No.
Right. What's the real story though?
Okay, so
turned it into pillars of salt. 2 cities, right? And he said, "Find me 50 good men, and I won't do this." And then I think he said, "Find me 10 good men."
Okay, so this story is generally used to say that God doesn't like homosexual. This is the story that highlights that.
Okay, so it's not just sin. It's not just because sodomy is even technically like oral sex.
The meaning of that word comes from
Sodom and Gomorrah. Right.
So
that's why I said it includes a lot of things people think is deviant sex. Yo, I gotta piss so bad. Can we come back to this? Sodom and Gomorrah. Come back to this.
I would love that.
Okay, let's take a look. Sodom and Gomorrah.
explanation for what the story said happened to two cities of people, right?
Right. There had to be a reason to tell that story. Most likely.
To tell this story, it requires all of those people to really have been killed in those circumstances. And the historical evidence shows us that something like that happened. Like, those two cities really did exist.
Do we know where Sodom and Gomorrah was?
Are you kidding? I know a guy who will pull that information up so fast and put it on the screen.
Young Jamie? Like, is there speculation as to what
sidekick is awake now. You can see the best part of him when Carl wakes up.
Carl's awake now. He's 3:30 waker.
Right. As we all would be if we were in charge of our schedules.
Yeah, probably. What do they think that it... Like, is there real speculation as to where it was?
Mm-hmm.
Where do they think it was?
It's not speculation. A lot of these places just changed names. Like, they used to be called this, and then they later were called something else. But
Iraq used to be Sumer.
Right. Yeah. Like, these are literal places that you can find on the real map. That was a part of that biblical rabbit hole I was telling you about. It's just seeing my only concern is, how do these ancient Islamic Judea, how do you say that, those three that exist, that all religion is built on, Judeo-Christian, Islamic, that whole belief system of how that operates, right? So you see they have question marks here, right? Only because they know that there were cities there.
So they have wreckage there? Or
like, for example, if everybody in Gaza talks about going there, it exists. If everybody in Hebron has family members that live there, it exists. If everybody, we know that.
So they think that was right near the Dead Sea. Wow.
Well, they didn't think it any differently than they thought Tal al-Hammam, if I'm pronouncing that correct. Like, these were places, like, people throughout history, if you show any body of water, those are always hot spots. Water is its own commodity and currency at all points, and that was the Dead Sea. But that's everywhere.
Was the Dead Sea always the Dead Sea? Because, goddamn, there's so much interesting stuff that came from that part of the world. That's where they found the Dead Sea.
But a lot of the stuff that was supposed to be unbelievable was all based on something real. Like, right, how long was it the Dead Sea? Long before they knew what high salt content was.
Right.
Or they might have called it high salt content sea. But what they were trying to say is, stuff's not growing here. Okay? Don't come here as a fishing spot. Right?
Let's get spot to gather salt, which at that point in time was as valuable as anything on earth. Salt, they'd go to war for salt. Salt allowed people to preserve their food. Salt was insanely valuable.
Understand the whole portions, because at the end of the day, for all people, it comes down to quality of life. So the jump that was made between people eating food that you had to kill yourself catching just so that you could put it over something hot so that you could get it where you could eat it, and eating it like that experience to seasoning your food and, having order from the best place because they
eating
do
too much spaghetti so you get fat.
Right. That's part of the greatness of human experience. It has been the part of being a king or being royalty through all civilizations was being able to experience the best. God, that's one of the attributes that makes you believe in him because every vegetable, let's say, that you would have, when it gets to the point where it would spoil and it would be useless and you'd have to throw it away, it becomes worth more money.
Because it's compost.
No. So, like, if you have potatoes, right, and so you have potatoes, but now you got too many potatoes, you could get vodka from that. And if you have too much rice, you could get sake from that. And if you got too much wheat and barley, you can get. And everything that you could have